All right, so now we're going to work on some of the older stuff. And so right here it says use the given conditions to write an equation for each line in slope-intercept form. So let's review what slope-intercept form is. Okay, so slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Okay. So that's how we want to give our answer. So basically, the x and y will just be x and y. I just have to figure out the m and the b value. So first, let's go ahead and find the slope. So the way we're going to do this, the formula for this is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so you need to label your points as point 1 and as point 2. Okay. And so let's go ahead and find the slope. So let's see, we're going to have 6 minus 1 over -1 minus a -4. So I'm going to end up getting a 5 on top. On bottom, that turns to a +4. So I end up with 5 over 3, so 5/3. All right. So now I have my slope. Okay, so that's half of it, but now I have to find the b value. So there's a couple different ways of doing this. The most popular way is using this point slope formula, and so hence you just need a point and you need a slope. So that formula, it's actually derived from the slope formula right here. It's here. It's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So it actually comes from the slope formula. You just multiply both sides by the denominator, and so see the m is getting multiplied by that denominator, and then the y minus y1 is by itself now. It is a little different because you use y minus y1 and x minus x1, and the reason why is you're going to leave the y and the x as they are. We're just going to fill in the points that are a point and then the slope. And so we'll just take the first point right here. And that's where it gets its name, point slope. So we're just going to plug in a point, and we're going to plug in the slope. And then what we'll do from there is solve for y, and that will be our answer. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to have y minus 1 equals 5/3 times x minus -4. So I do have double negatives right here. And so we'll go ahead and fix that. So y minus 1 equals 5/3 times x plus 4. Okay. And if you need to, you can look back in the notes when we covered this. I've got detailed explanation of what I'm doing right now. And so now we'll go ahead and distribute the slope, and I'm kind of running out of room, so I'll write it over here. So I'll have the y minus 1 equals, so now I'm going to have 5/3 x. And then when I multiply it by that 4, I'm going to put that 4 over 1. So 5 times 4 is 20. I end up with 20 over 3 times 1 is 3. All right, I'm almost done. I got one more thing to do, and that last thing is going to be to add 1 to both sides. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So that cancels out. So y equals 5/3 x plus 20 over 3. And then that 1, I'm going to change that 1 into a 3 over 3. It's the same thing as 1, but now I have a common denominator so that I can go ahead and add those two fractions together. Okay, and so when I add that together, I'm going to go ahead and put my answer in the blank. I'm going to get y equals 5/3 x, and then this becomes 23 over 3 plus 23 over 3. So that's quite a bit right there, okay? And that's back from the first unit of college algebra when we were looking at functions and lines. So That's how you find the equation of a line given 2 points. Okay. Also part of that material was looking at composite functions, and so that's what we're going to look at right here. So right here you're given a function f and a function g, and you're asked to find the composite. And so f of g of x, you have to know that that represents f. It's telling you to substitute the g function into the f function. So I'm actually going to take 3x plus 1, and I'm going to place it into the f function where I see x. So this becomes 3x plus 1 squared minus 25. Okay, so this next part, you're going to want to be careful. You can break it apart and FOIL it if you want, but the shortcut would be to square the first term, multiply them together and double it to 6x, and then square the last term, which is a 1, and then we still have that minus 25 right there. Okay? If you want to break it apart and FOIL it, you can do that, but that's kind of the shortcut there. So you square the first one. So 3 squared is 9, x squared, multiply this and double it to a 6x, and then square the last one. Then we have that minus 25, so we'll go ahead and combine those constants right there. So my final result is 9x squared plus 6x minus 24. There we go. Okay, now we're going to look at it from the other way just to get some more practice. Now we're going to do g of f of x. And so this time we're going to plug in the f function into the g function. So we're going to take the x squared minus 25. I'm actually going to place it for the x value of the g function. So 3 times x squared minus 25. I have that plus 1 right there. So we're going to go ahead and distribute that 3. So 3x squared minus 75 plus 1. And then we'll go ahead and add that together. So 3x squared minus 74. And there you go. Okay, something we looked at after this, back in our early units, was inverse functions. And so that's what we're going to look at next. Okay. Once again, if you look back in the notes, you'll find a, detailed explanation on, how to approach all this stuff. So first thing, the first step would be to change that to a y. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with. Okay. Then the next part is to switch the x and y value. So now it's x equals the square root of 2y plus 3. And then now you solve for y. And that's how you find the inverse. Okay, so I want to nullify the square root. So I'm going to square both sides. So in doing so, now I have x squared equals, and nullifies the square root, 2y plus 3. And then from here, I just have to do a little bit of algebra to isolate the y value. So we'll subtract by 3. So let's see, x squared minus 3 equals 2y. And then we'll divide both sides by 2. And there you go. So my inverse, just to show you I'm going to use my inverse notation. So the f inverse is going to be x squared minus 3 divided by 2. So those are the steps. So change the f of x to a y, swap the x and y, solve for y, and then make sure you use your inverse function notation. Okay, so got one more of these. Same steps. We change that to a y equals x cubed plus 4. We'll go ahead and swap those. Okay. So we're going to have x equals y to the third plus 4. Okay. And now we just have to, let's see, subtract 4. So x minus 4 equals y to the third power. Now we have to nullify the cube power here. So we're going to go ahead and cube root. Okay. And so that nullifies that. So we have the cube root, x minus 4 equals y. And then for our inverse notation, cube root of x minus 4. All right, there we go.